Well, it depends on what country.
Out of the country.
He travels a lot.
He does. He does. Maybe we won his frequent flyer. I don't know. Courtesy of the floor. Anything? No. I have one thing. Heritage. I sent it to the board here. They have a walk down in Northampton, Williams Township. It is Hex and Cup Preserve down in Williams Township.
This is from our.
If anyone wants to go, that's all my courtesy for. Anything else?
I can just tell you about that
Yeah.
particular piece of property. They were trying to get that way back when I was even on the county board. And it's special because of the rocks there, the historical,
The witches.
and,
Yeah.
and even environmentally anyway.
Right.
And it's next to other things, so it would be an interesting walk.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, it's Saturday, September 21st at 9:30, and Sebastian Harris, who has come up here and walked properties with me, is the one that's doing the walk, so. It's $20 for supporters and 25 for the general public.
And where is this at?
It's down in Williams Township, at Hexon Cup Preserve.
Well, I'm sure we're not gonna do it, but
Yeah, I don't know, it sounded interesting.
That's another example of if you didn't want the public on it all the time, you had to have these public walks,
Yeah.
which is what some of our places were gonna be like.
Yep, sure. So there you go, that was mine. Anything else out there? All right. You all received the agenda. Is there a motion to
Really have
approve?
something like that.
I'll take a second. Did you make the motion?
Oh, no, we'll
Okay,
make
I'll
the
make the
motion.
motion. Thank you.
You
I'll
second?
second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Jason, thank you for setting up the meeting minutes.
Sorry they were late.
That's
It
okay.
was just a busy.
It gets busy, I know, it's crazy. I didn't see anything. Did you guys?
I didn't actually
I
look,
didn't see
I
anything.
got back and it was just.
They were short. It was
It
a short
was.
meeting last week.
Yeah,
Month that.
it was.
It was very short.
We were very concise, so, all right,
I'll take your word for it.
they look good to me. Is there a motion to approve?
No, I didn't read it.
Oh, I gotta say, yeah.
You, I was here, yeah.
I'll make a
just-
motion.
I'll
Make
second
a
it.
motion, second, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so, the meat of our meeting.
Want to make the announcement?
Yes, so this is so exciting, so very exciting. We received the NIFWIF grant monies, and it's $600,000.
Oh, wow.
Today,
Yeah,
today.
so,
Like
just today, just this afternoon.
6 hours ago, we got the email.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Wow.
we just got it today. So
Good,
we
good
are,
stuff.
To get it from who?
National Wild.
Fish and Wildlife Federation.
Yes. So that is like, so exciting. So,
Well, you better, now we got Dave in here, you better pay it.
Super Super Freeman, we have wonderful news. We received the NIFWIF grant for $600,000 for the preserve.
Ooh, 600,000?
Yeah, that was the big one. for
The
preserve.
big one,
One of the big ones.
one of the big
Yeah.
one, okay.
One down, two to go.
Yeah, so that's awesome. So, and that will help with the others, hopefully, right?
Absolutely.
So that's that. Okay, so, Peter and,
Okay, hi, everybody, thanks. Good to see everyone. This is John Kasoris from Carroll Engineering. Hopefully, John and I will be working with you on the plan. I do want to go over the funding though.
yeah,
first,
sure,
just to
that's fine.
refresh everybody's
Absolutely.
memory.
That's all.
You got that one?
Oh, boy, you already got it printed.
And today,
Oh, yeah.
today we met with Lisa Boscala's office
Okay,
to encourage her to lobby hard for the DCED money. It's DCED Greenways, Trails, and Recreation Program. And so that's, if I could get your attention to the bottom group of monies, right? The DCD money is bolded there. And so Senator Boscola and Representative Flood will be doing their best to advance that. You have to get a unanimous vote from the CFA board at DCD to get the money. So we will let them know, we got the NIFWIF, which is gonna help, and, that probably won't happen till November, December, January, okay? And you can see that we're matching that money with 600 from DCNR. Hopefully the DCNR money we'll find out about in, I'm hoping, October, November, in that time frame. That's usually when they announce. And again, Lauren Possinger, who some of you know, has been really helpful with that. And then, in that case, the township's match to that half of the funding would be $350. Then, the good news today was the NIFWIF grant. And the cool thing about NIFWIF is they allow the recipient to match design and engineering money to their construction money. So if the board decides to hire Carroll Engineering and Simone Collins, the money you spend for design and engineering will be matched against the construction money, which is very unique in the world of funding. And then the other part of that would be the remainder from the township money there, the $325. Now, the other thing that's not shown here yet is, I think some of you remember we met with Sherry Acevedo from the county, and I'm sure they're gonna contribute to this. It was just too early in the process to really submit a formal grant because they have a short window. They need you to get done within 2 years. So probably in a year or so, the township would make an application to the county for at least 75, and we'll suggest pushing them a little bit, maybe to 100, because 75 is their normal large grant. But this, we think, is a special project for them. So, again, the great news is we're on our way with the first grant. There'll be some paperwork we're gonna have to fill out probably short order.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but we're gonna have to fill it out in short order. I haven't really had a chance to look at that email.
It was some kind of number that I needed to do
Yeah.
for,
So I'll talk to you tomorrow about that,
Yeah.
or Tuesday,
okay.
or Friday, if you're there. So, that's the funding. Any questions about the funding?
Is there any limits to what what they can kick in?
Who?
Any of these?
Well, they're not gonna give us more than we asked for at this point.
Okay.
But, you know, again, we're thrilled that we got the NIFWIF. That's a really good sign. And that will encourage the other agencies to get on board, once they know that that's in place. So, you know, I'm
I do have
encouraged.
one question when you,
Yes, go
Good.
ahead.
The 600,000, so when I was reading it, obviously you can't do any construction until everything is done, all of the different studies. But what about you and Jay,
Yeah,
Justin? Can we tap that money to get you moving forward?
Yeah, that's the other great thing about NIFWIF. You can spend the money on design and engineering before the construction starts.
Okay,
So,
We- So if you hired us in 2 months or a month,
right,
we could start doing that work, you could pay us for it, and we could still count it as a match.
okay.
And we'll confirm all that again, but I'm 100% sure that's correct. That's a big deal in the world of funding, that you can do that.
Right, okay, very good. That's my question.
So the other reason we're here is to, I hope you all got copies of our proposal with Carroll Engineering. I mean, we're the prime, but most of the work is Carroll Engineering's work, because it involves permitting, with the agencies for stormwater management, and a bunch of other things that are called out in their proposal. So, I didn't bring copies for everybody, because I assume everybody had a chance to look at it, but we're really here to answer questions.
I don't have to
Do
live
you need a copy? I give you a copy. Let me just.
Okay, sure, sorry.
Does anybody else want one?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have one?
No,
Oh, you don't?
if you do,
You guys
you
need
get
one?
one.
You want?
The other thing I'll mention, well, thanks, Nick.
Yeah.
Nick's making copies. Is I know David Clooney brought up some questions, which I thought they were good questions, about the design. And, you know, the master plan was done for a bunch of reasons, and we can talk about that when you're ready. But hiring us doesn't preclude changing the design a little bit if there are reasons to do so.
I
So-
think you made that clear in the very beginning.
Yeah.
That the master plan can be changed.
Absolutely, and there's the one thing I'll go over while Nick's making copies. When hopefully we get the land and water conservation money, which is through DCNR, the other 600,000, What they require is that the money, where you spend their money, you can't do anything. You can't do it, you can't use it for other reasons except recreation. And I left another map I had on my desk. But basically, when we get that money, we're gonna have to draw a line sort of around here where we're doing this trail and stuff. So it's not gonna, it'll be additional land that's permanently, yeah, it'll be additional land that's permanently used for recreation. It won't necessarily be part of your conservation easement. Jason, I was just showing that that line would be something like this, which is the area we're using for access, and around the pond and then down here. That would be part of the land and water conservation area. So instead of that's the conserved area, we'd be extending that like around here, which is land you can't use anyway for public works because it's hilly and et cetera, et cetera. So that would be the requirement from land and water conservation. And when that money happens, you'd have to have that surveyed as part of the deed description. Because they wanna make sure if they're giving you money, it's staying as parks and open space forever, which I think was another suggestion that maybe David and others have. Could we use some more of that public works area? And technically we can, but it's really not an area that you can really utilize for the public works operation. So when that grant comes through, we'll have to do that with DCNR and the feds at the Land and Water Conservation Fund. The other thing that's happening, which you probably know, is Scott Policelli is out trying to finish up the survey. He's been out on site for a long time. He's had some issues with getting access because it's so overgrown. But John's office is really coordinating with him to make sure he gives us what we need in terms of the survey, so.
He started giving us pieces of it that we've been looking at, so, excuse me, so we're starting to dive into that now as we're starting to receive some of that.
Right. And the other work that has been done was by ECS, and they went out and they mapped, and Nick has an electronic copy of the report, and I'll just pass this around. They mapped the wetlands that hadn't been mapped before, mainly at the public works site. So I'll pass this around so you can see it, but here's the building, right? And those areas in red are wetlands. And the reason we did that is so that as you're doing your public works operations, you don't get yourself into trouble by going into a wetland. So that's in the report, and Scott's surveying those locations as part of his work. So those are a couple of things that have happened since the last time I've been to, I think, one of the board meetings. The other thing I'll mention too is we went, my wife and I had the pleasure of coming to your 4th of July fireworks.
Yeah, we saw you up there.
Yeah, we had a tent and we talked to probably about 30 or 40 people. It was mainly to do the trail, but we talked to them about both projects. So people were really interested and very positive about it, which was nice.
I think it'll be a big draw.
Yeah, that fireworks was a great event.
They put on a good show.
Boy, 1,000 cars you had, it's crazy.
Over 800.
Oh, it was 800?
We actually that's not counting the ones that were out on the street.
Right.
That they want to pay the $5 to come in.
We're getting there.
Yeah, all up and down Potomac Street.
That was impressive you guys pull that off. It's a lot of work.
Well, we got the space up there, which is
Yeah.
nice. And actually a private firm pays for the fireworks.
Oh, really?
Mr. Post.
Oh, right, I remember seeing that.
Yes. The Post Foundation.
Nice.
He also paid for the restrooms up there.
Oh, nice. Yeah, they turned out great. So while Nick's getting those, I mean, how the work is divided up, we're gonna be working with,
Anybody else needs this?
Carroll Engineering to make sure the design stays, we're more familiar with the site, make sure the engineering part of this stays true to the overall design, that we retain all the aspects of the design we'll be helping Carroll detailing some of the features There's another firm, Symbiotic Ecological, who's gonna be working with us to detail some of the planting, some of the invasives removal, come up with a plan for that. So that, and also help us with some of the planting design, because when Carol goes in for the NPDS permit and things like that, we're gonna have to show, native plantings, throughout. You can see on page 3, the total cost for the consulting is about $276,530, and that includes the work that's being done now for the survey and the wetlands delineation. I think during the master plan, we estimated about $250, so we're close.
So, what can you start doing on site now with the $600,000?
Nothing, because what we have to do is go through design and engineering and get the permits. Mainly the NPDS permits, and there might be what's called a 105, 106 permit, where we're maybe doing a boardwalk across a wetland. Because you can't put a shovel in the ground until you have your regulatory permits, and those are the, I think, 2 main ones.
For sure, yep.
Yeah.
But can you start staking out, shooting grades, stuff like that?
Well,
We're doing that now.
Scott's doing that now. He's
He's
doing the topo.
delineating the wetlands. I mean, all those trails and stuff, can you start staking them out and stuff like that?
Scott is doing the center lines of all the major trails,
All right.
which is what we need, and he's, and that's what we need to make sure we're true to grade.
Yeah, we can't really stake it out until we see what the grade is to see where things are gonna go.
The regulatory permit, is there a timeframe, the length? I mean, do you have to reapply after so long?
5 years.
5 years? Okay.
Oh, 5 years.
Yeah.
But your fee includes all of those, fees or whatever?
Not renewals, but, I mean,
Hopefully it don't do it for 5 years.
yeah, that's not a big deal. The biggest part is just getting them. It's a process. NPDS is typically around 4 to 6 months.
Yeah.
About the same for the joint permit.
Yeah.
The permit's usually a little bit easier. NPDS is gonna be the big one. And it's gonna be, because it's a linear trail, we're just gonna have to figure out stormwater. It's gonna be our biggest
Yeah,
challenge.
right.
But nothing that we can't overcome. And we have
Why
tons of
don't you
area.
hire the beavers? They're doing a good job.
Let them help us out.
Yeah.
Make some ponds for us.
Yeah. They're doing good tree removal.
Yeah, we're doing very little impervious surface. I mean, it's mainly gonna be the parking lot and the driveway. So, one of the things that John's office and our office will do is we'll have a pre-application meeting with, the Conservation District and probably PADEP before they submit, so that they understand the site. Because this is not gonna be a typical application for them. Mostly, they're looking at housing developments and things where you're doing lots of impervious.
Straightforward,
This
yeah.
is a pretty environmentally friendly project.
Yeah.
So hopefully those permits will be they're never simple, but relatively simple.
Yeah, it should be as clean as possible. And the biggest thing that we wanna to let them know is, this is a preserve. Most of what we wanna do is keep everything. So we're not gonna be clearing trees to put stormwater management in. We're gonna work with the lay of the land to find ways to make stormwater work. And we just need to make sure they're on board with our ideas. So when we go and apply, they're not gonna come back with a 12-page letter saying, what the heck are you guys doing?
Yeah.
So we want them to be on the same page with us as we're going through the process.
Very good.
Some of the things, and Nick shared with me David Clooney's note about some of the concerns, and I'll just refer to the plan. You may recall the earlier plans, and if you look in the master plan, I have a booklet with me if anybody wants to look at it. We had originally talked about coming in here with the driveway and coming to there and doing parking. But, and then we had discussion and we looked at this, and I still feel better about the entrance off of Audubon for a couple of reasons. One, this is a shorter driveway, first of all, so it's less cost. But the other thing, if you go out to the site, there's a whole pile of spoils here, and it's pretty unconsolidated. And we always had concerns about if you tried to bring a driveway up there, you're gonna be doing a lot of filling and bringing in structural soil to make sure that driveway was really stable. And I think it'd be probably more expensive and more work to do that. Here we're just showing a pedestrian trail, then to come down. Now, one of the things we might find out when we get the survey back is we're using LIDAR, USGS, not USGS, but
That's a-
GPS topo, is we might find that maybe the parking lot is too steep to work on that
Mhm.
slope, cutting a bench in. So maybe what ends up doing is we might end up putting the parking down here or something, which still could work. And we'll make that decision, so we wanna do what makes sense, and we won't know those details until we get the survey back. Because Scott's surveying this whole area,
Yeah.
so he gets a
Yeah.
real good survey there.
And even once we think we find the best path, I mean, we're always value engineering everything, so, again, just kinda like how this trail's laid out, once we find an area where we think is great, it might not be perfect, you know, we're gonna go out there, we're gonna take a look, we're gonna look at the survey. If we have to do any kind of testing, that'll get done, and we're gonna pick the area that's best and is the cheapest to construct. You know, we're not gonna hopefully, and, you know, you guys are gonna guide us through this, but we're not gonna say, hey, this is where it needs to be, no matter what.
Right,
So
right.
we're gonna
So
work with
some
the land and
flexibility.
make it work, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a preserve, right? You
Yeah.
wanna blend it with nature.
Right. But the area we're talking about is not preserved, right?
Correct, this, the
Is in the co-
conserved
yeah.
area is up
Yeah,
from this line.
Yeah.
But when we get the DCR money, we're gonna have to add a boundary for the land and water conservation, which doesn't make it subject to the same regulations as your conservation easement.
Mhm.
It just says to the Land and Water Conservation Fund, you're never gonna make it into a public works center. It's always gonna
Right.
be for recreation, passive recreation, which makes sense, because you can't use this upper area anyway.
No. Anything that's gonna be done is gonna be where the building is,
Correct, correct.
for public works.
Correct. The other thing that's important that I forgot to mention was, one of the things Scott is surveying are all the trails that are meant to be ADA accessible, handicap accessible.
Yeah.
So we know, you know, the railroad grade, that's gonna be part of the Portland Community Trail, that's accessible, of course, it's very flat. But there's some other trails in here too that we wanna make accessible, which is very important to, especially DCNR, because we wanna give opportunities for people who are not fully able-bodied to be able to experience this place. So those handicap accessible trails are important. That's why, if you look at the design, we have a small parking lot here, which is a handicap accessible lot, right? It'll be somewhere here that accesses these trails.
Mhm.
So the handicap accessibility is very important. That still can be a stone dust surface, right? But there might be areas where there's a big drainage wash across, and we might say, okay, that's just gonna be a maintenance headache, we're gonna pave that area.
Mm.
So it's not a maintenance problem, but
Mhm.
it still stays as handicap accessible.
Yeah, and the only challenge with that is, because it's not, I mean, a lot of times when you do ADA, we try to even do it, even if it's an asphalt parking lot, you'll still even try to do that in concrete, because you can be a lot more precise. If we're flat enough there, we just have to make sure constructability, right? So, you know, you have to have, your running slope has to be 5%, your cross slope has to be 2% maximum. So we're never gonna design at that maximum, we're gonna be able, since we're not dealing with a real hard surface, we're just gonna have to be smart in how we design it.
So that's where we are. I don't know if any of you have other questions we can try to answer.
Well, what would be the plan for the invasives?
Well,
I mean,
it's-
any idea on?
We're looking for the map.
Oh, you want the map?
Oh, that one. I'm sorry, I thought you were talking. I was just wondering, like, what's the plan for the invasives? Like, how much, I mean, we know there's a lot there, but like, how much, what, are they gonna use the current trails and then, you know, let them fill in after they're done?
Some of the, there are some trails on here that are slated to be removed.
Okay.
Like this one is one, because it sort of separates this forest area.
Yeah.
And there's no reason for it really. So you don't want to remove all the invasives at one time, because even though they're not like the correct plant, they still provide habitat for animals, right? The animals like the natives better, but they still use the like the Russian olive is a good
Mhm.
example. They'll still use those because they provide cover. So it's a systematic, we're gonna design what the program is, and we will build what we can afford within the budget that we finally have. Hopefully it's 2.1 million. But it's still gonna be a ongoing maintenance stewardship thing that the township's gonna have to undertake over time. I mean, realistically, it might take you a decade
Yeah.
to go through the site, slowly remove those invasives and come back with stuff. You're gonna have some areas that you do and they're gonna fail. because that's the nature of that beast in terms of doing that. There may be areas where, you do deer exclosures, where you do an area and you fence it off, might be, say, a half an acre. And do a deer exclosure, because then the deer aren't gonna go in and browse all the stuff you just paid $30,000 for. You know, it's their buffet. So there are all different types of things that are gonna happen here. And one of the things we talked about during the master plan, if you recall, is the township is gonna have to, either learn or bring in that expertise in terms of stewardship. You might do it initially if you hire an environmental contractor, which you can do with your open space fund, right? That pays for maintenance of facilities that were purchased with that. So it's an ongoing challenge. It's not like one and done.
Yeah,
You're
no,
gonna have to
no.
maintain it, and it will never be perfect. But hopefully, you'll get to a point, and I think that's the exciting about the site that we talked about, that as opposed to like the Mincy Lake area, which was never disturbed, this is a site that was highly disturbed, and you're gonna bring it back to ecological health, which, again, one of the things we suggest in the master plan is you involve some of the universities in terms of studying. They might provide at least a small bit of volunteer labor for invasives removal, studying what happens, things like that. But it's definitely a process.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
So this 600,000 was actually up a lot now, start things rolling?
Absolutely. I mean, Nick, we'll talk, but I mean, I'll send letters to, DCNR.
DCNR
And I think, I'll send a letter to both, Representative
Yeah,
Flood and
Flood
Senator
and,
Viscola.
yeah.
And just say, look, we just got notice of this, so, you know,
Spread
jump on the
joy.
train and
Yeah,
get
spread
us
the-
the other money.
Yeah. I read something about an announcement, I don't know, it's like a photo op or something.
I think they said don't make any announcements to the newspapers or anything until everything is signed and
Right,
all the Ts are crossed and all the Is dotted.
right.
I mean, we can tell the agencies, they just don't want you making a announcement to the
announcement.
newspaper.
Right.
I'm not gonna have any troubles with this like we had with the county now, are we?
With-
As far as getting the money?
We
Oh.
had photo ops a year ago, and we still,
Oh, that was for your other
That's why I
project.
said we were frustrated,
Yeah.
we're very
a little
frustrated.
frustrating right now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is it's a reimbursement program with NIFWIP, so you're gonna have to put the money out first and then get reimbursed.
Right.
And both NIFWIP, which is federal, and Land Order Conservation is federal, it is more complicated than the state, but you're getting more money.
Right.
I don't care how complicated, just so we get it.
Oh,
Like with the county, you know, we were waiting and waiting
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
making a phone call, mixed up on the phone, making a phone call after phone call, and
it's a lot, it's labor intensive.
yeah.
Because it shouldn't be. But again, I don't wanna bash anybody, but it's, the state level, everything's got a different procedure, different process.
Yeah.
You just gotta deal with it.
That's why they give you money. They gotta just make sure you're spending it correctly. It is a pain, but,
I mean, you know, when they do say they're gonna pay us, the money's ACH.
yeah. I mean, we get hurt with that too. We're doing a project, not to whine, but we're doing a project up in Perry County, and the client's getting reimbursed by the state, and it's taking forever. So I'm sitting
Yeah.
there drawing on my line of credit because I haven't been paid. So, it happens to everybody.
I mean, it literally took me, just for, when we're talking about it, it took me literally 6 months to get the open space fund, our fund, into the state system. They were sending money to the liquid fuels money, and you can't do that. I mean, to get it out, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
So I finally said, well, that money that we're supposed to get for the 25,000, which we got, I think you get the majority, 90% of it. You're still owing 10. But once that was cleared up, so now we're clear, they have our account for open space. So that was the hard part, is just giving our account to them. So if you can imagine if they were a bank.
Yeah.
I'll give it to you in 6 months, we're
Yeah.
gonna go to a different bank. But anyway.
Yeah, so.
But it worked.
So I, you know, we're anxious to get started, because this process will take a while. The NPDS permit is gonna take, once we go through the process, it's gonna take at least a year, and
Yeah.
probably longer.
Yeah, once it's submitted.
So this is gonna take time to get all the permits in place,
Right.
but, we hope you can recommend to the board that you move forward with this. You know, David's comments, David Clooney's comments are well taken. We're not locked into anything exactly,
Mhm.
and as we start to, refine the design, we'll be in front of, if it's this board or the supervisors, however you wanna do that, we'll come back and go over those changes, cause I think it's important, but.
Yeah, it needs to be fluid. It
Yeah,
has to be.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is really, I mean, I think this is close. I know it's close because there are a lot of these trails are existing, so we're not gonna
Yeah.
move those. But
Yeah.
for this stuff, you know, this is our best estimate at the time, and I'm sure it's gonna change a little bit.
Yeah, the ADA switchback in the middle, you know, we're gonna work with Grade to make that as cheap as possible to build, so
Mhm.
the kind of stuff is gonna be fluid.
When you talk about the entrance down by the Public Works, are you talking what's there now, or you're putting something?
Well, this is the Public Works
Right.
entrance, Janet, that we're not touching, we're not doing
Right.
anything with that. This is where the old house used to be off Million Dollar Highway, and here we're showing a small parking lot with like a dozen spaces, and that would just be for people walking into the site. So it'd only be a walk-in, you couldn't drive in, and then our main entry off of Audubon, we'll have to do a switchback down the hill, have a parking lot in this
I
location.
just was wondering about that one down there where the old property was.
This one, yeah,
Yeah.
that's just walk-in, small parking
Okay.
lot,
It won't take much as far as vehicles or parking, I mean, it's a small area.
12 cars, we have,
Cars.
a dozen cars. So it's just to give, and then we have another one up here across from Bollinger, right on Boulder Drive. We have, you know, 5 spaces, so the people from this neighborhood or from Portland, if they wanna drive here and walk in, they can do that.
Mhm.
It's, because it's too steep here to do anything
Yeah,
with cars.
that's a steep area,
really
that's.
steep.
Yep. So we're trying, and then, of course, when the trail is up and running, people can come in from the trail, too. Anything
That
else?
was it from David, right? That was a question.
I think that was his main concern was.
I think with the money, I think if we wanted to move a little bit more into the public works with the funding, be able to go into it with it.
Well,
I
and,
think that's what he was trying to get at.
and I think, again, when and if we get the land and water conservation money, you know, we structured these, the other reason we broke it into 2 pieces is because when we talked to land and water conservation, their advice was we didn't wanna get it too complicated with having too many matches. So we broke the work into 2 pieces of 1.2 million each. And that's why it's broken into 2 pieces there. They know about the big picture. They just thought for the purposes of the grant, it was better to do it this way.
Mhm.
So the money that we're going after from DCNR, which is the Land and Water Conservation, we designated paying for this whole entry and some other trails. So when we get that money from Land and Water Conservation, we are gonna have to draw a line that goes into technically the public works area,
Mhm.
but it's an area that you can't use for that function.
Right.
It's hilly, you know, we have some wetlands there that we're on the map.
Yeah.
So we have to work around that. So we're not really taking anything, we're doing 2 things. We're not taking anything away from Public Works, but for folks like David who wanna use more Public Works, we are technically doing that, which is, I think is fine. Cause you can't use it for much
You
else
can't,
anyway.
so you can't use that anyway.
It's just an
so-
additional buffer zone, really.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if,
We're
and
not
if,
taking
and if
any-
you wanted to, if the township wanted to put a conservation easement like you have here on this other little bit, you can do that, but nobody's gonna make you do it.
Right, right.
Because by taking the land and water conservation money, you have to preserve it. Because if you don't, the feds will come back, cause they come and inspect these sites every 5 years. They'll come back and they'll say, we want our money back.
What about from where the road is gonna come in, all the way out to, Million Dollar, that green space, all the trees on
This-
the hill?
This area,
No, up by Audubon, that whole swath there,
this,
that can't be public works.
well, this,
Would that be another part
If-
that could have some type of?
well, we don't have any improvements.
Just for stormwater runoff,
Yeah.
keep, you know.
We
And
don't
there's
have
a
any,
wet area
yeah,
along
you
the
can't
bottom.
do anything back there because it's
Right.
hilly and then it's wet. So that's up to you. I mean, it's not
Down
really,
the road, yeah.
it's not
no,
really
it's-
part of our design, Judy, so.
No, I know it isn't, but is it, when you're saying you're gonna make something different with the, land and water,
Yeah,
I mean, at that time you say, well, we've got this whole strip up here.
that's up to you. I mean, I wouldn't advise you to do that because it ties your hands to a certain degree. And, you know, they're not, I don't know if they'd object to it, but Land and Water Conservation is not paying for any improvements there. So they would say, well, why are we putting
Well,
that
why
in
would-
there?
Yeah,
It's really more of a township decision. If you wanted to conserve it, you could.
that would be separate.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so, probably.
So in essence, you were saying, look, with the PDS, we won't be doing anything for at least a year.
I'd say 2 years.
2 years?
I'd say if you can break around 2 years from
No.
now, you're good, that's a good,
Fair target.
that's a good target.
So we wouldn't apply for the county till
Hang in there,
26.
hang in there, Janet.
Janet said, she was ready to cross the finish.
She had a
We're gonna
gold
make-
shovel ready.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things you could
Worked on
do.
this for so long.
I know. One of the things you could do is you could, if you can enlist some volunteers or reach out to the universities, you could start invasives removal on a small scale if you wanted to. I mean, that's not a bad thing to do, or you might have a community day where you go in and, I mean, you could do things like that because that's not really construction. You're not gonna get anybody upset, you're not breaking any environmental regulations. So you could do some volunteer stuff like that. But that's only if you wanna do it. But I know this takes a long time. Nick and I were talking about that and Laura earlier today. This stuff takes a long time, but I'm really encouraged that we got the NIF whip the first try. Cause it doesn't always happen the first time through. And it just shows you have a really good
How-
project.
Exactly, how important it is, which I hope people get to appreciate that.
And NIFWIF told us they were excited about this because it's such a big site.
Yeah.
171 acres,
Yeah.
they're excited about it.
So hopefully everybody else will be excited.
And taking it from the mining industry
Yeah.
to back to
Yep.
some.
Making it, bringing it back to life.
Awesome. I see a New York Times article for you guys.
More money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next steps would be applying for the permits. Essentially, that's
Getting
what.
that work done, yeah, starting the
Get the work
design
done to
in
get
order to
it,
get us
yeah.
the base for the
Yeah,
permitting.
yeah.
Yep, we can't do that until the survey's done, but
Yes.
look, it seems like Scott's getting
He's
pretty
almost
close.
done, yeah,
Yeah.
he's almost there.
So one of the things we'll do to get started is we'll schedule a site walk out on the site, probably spend a day out on the site. Look at everything with a fine tooth comb, couple people from my office, couple people from John's office.
Yeah, bring the
You
design
know, if
in.
anybody wants to come, we did that at one point with some of you. If you want to come back.
Or you'd rather do that in the fall when all the leaves fall off.
Nice.
It's pretty hairy
Well-
back there.
Yeah, they're gonna want to go down in there now.
Yeah.
Bring your sticker gear.
The one pond there is all flooded up.
It's good to see that too. It's good to see its limits. It's good for us to see that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. I think one of my favorite parts of this project is the ADA accessibility and like the stuff that's involved with the ponds and the fact that, you know, someone in a wheelchair is gonna be able to access a boat ramp, that they can go sit in a canoe or a boat and go
Right.
paddle out. I mean, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
We're really proud to be a
It
part
gives
of the
them an
project,
alternate to
potentially.
Lake Mincy, and the people are using it. A lot of people,
Yeah.
I pass by there.
You don't see that everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I live near Lake Alena down in Bucks County.
Oh, Bucks, yeah.
And we don't see that stuff down there.
No?
I haven't seen it. Lake Nockamixon, I don't even think they have it. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, if I were ADA accessible or handicapped and I couldn't access, I'd be driving up here and hitting that all the
Oh,
time.
sure.
It's pretty cool. So yeah, we're really excited to have the opportunity to be a part of this.
Yeah. It's a concerted effort.
And that it's small is actually something to, really celebrate because it's for kids and whoever, you know, it's not a lot of people, a lot of traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't bring a lot of people to the community.
Yeah.
Some don't like that, but I think it's a good thing.
The kind of people it brings to are good people. You know,
Yeah.
nature people, people you see out in
Outdoorsy,
nature, they're
yeah,
they're friendly, they
absolutely.
care. they care about the environment, they care
That's
about,
our image, we wanna keep
they're not gonna be
that.
throwing trash all over the place, they're
No,
gonna
no,
be
we
picking up
can't-
trash.
Yeah.
So you're bringing a good group of people to
Yep.
the area as
They
well.
care about the environment and,
Yeah.
yeah. So good.
Okay, well, thanks.
Yeah.
Take the time to
Yeah,
talk
thanks
about
for-
this.
Thank you for
Coming
stopping.
up and,
Yeah, and, keep your fingers crossed on the other grants, it's a good start.
Yeah, thanks for the good
That's
news.
amazing.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave these boards with you
All right.
for both this and the trail. You can put them up or just use them.
People wanna use them?
Yeah.
I know you think I'm anxious, but I've seen this property for 60 years, and it went from one thing to another thing to another thing, and now it's starting to show some fruition to going back to good.
Yeah,
Well,
Yeah, we're getting there.
all I can say is hire us so we get started.
yeah, well, we got two supervisors
That's a
right
good,
here, Pete.
I know, that's a good segue,
We'll
Janet,
get
to
these
hire us, but,
People that wait.
yeah.
Oh, that
That
right?
works.
Did you want this back then?
Sure, yeah, if you don't mind, and Nick, you have the electronic copy, if you want me to make
Yes.
you some prints of this, I can, I'll send them up.
Okay.
And, okay,
Awesome.
thank you so much.
Well, good, yeah.
Thanks for meeting everybody.
Yeah, you too, John. Safe trip back, guys.
Careful
and,
going home.
Yeah.
Hopefully get some good
It
news.
was starting to rain when I came in,
Yeah, it was,
there's a freaking severe thunderstorm.
As long as it's not snowing, I'm good.
Just don't like,
Yes, no.
we're not there yet.
God, I can't.
Nick, are you in tomorrow and Friday?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I'll look at that and,
Let me know what you
Send
want
you
me
a
to
note
do
or something.
because, it looks like I have to get it in quick or something.
yeah.
John, thanks for coming up. Very nice
Thank
meeting
nice to meet you.
Yeah, you have my number, so if you need anything. Pete,
Thanks.
thanks, nice seeing you.
Yeah,
All right,
congratulations.
Drive
Yeah,
safe.
thanks for
Come
coming.
back.
It's all
Yeah.
Thanks for coming,
Take
say
care.
hi to Justin.
Good
Will
thing.
do.
Yes.
Yeah, he was sorry he couldn't make it. This week.
We love Justin.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
We do.
He's excited that we opened that Easton office so we can be closer up here.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
you
Thanks,
keep me
guys.
busy.
Tell him-
Yeah,
tell him
he's-
he's gotta-
yeah.
Thanks
Yeah.
for coming
Well, he
over.
doesn't always gotta
Justin
take
doesn't
you to
live down
TikTok
that far.
on Thursdays.
Okay. Okay. I'll hold him to that.
Okay, come the day you come to the
TikTok
station.
on Thursdays.
Thursdays,
For pepper
TikTok
pot.
for pepper pot.
Just, no, mention to Justin Nazo Nuts, that's just say that, he'll know it came from me.
Nozzle nuts.
Yeah, it's donuts from Nazareth.
Ooh.
They're the best donuts, thank God they're 15, 20 miles away. I go here every day. Might have to roll me in here.
Awesome. Wish you were open now, cause I could go for one.
All right,
And,
so,
Get me
thanks a
home.
lot.
Have a nice week.
All right.
Take care. Have a
Safe
good
travels.
holiday week.
Yeah, take care.
No, that's
Why,
yours.
why couldn't Dave come? Is Carlo one in the rain?
No, he's away, man. I think he's out of the country. I don't know where he is.
So,
That was great news though, Ben. Great.
Yeah,
that's
we were just talking about it,
600,000.
and I got back to the office and
There it was.
there was Nino.
Big chunk of money.
So, just moving along on our agenda, financial reports, there's no change from our last time. They're the
There's
same.
nothing really going,
No,
there's
nothing
the,
going on.
feasibility study's done, so.
Yep, so
the
it's the
bills.
same. I can email it to you guys.
We can't get that money back until the county and I think
You know, got anything from
State.
the county up there, what's his excuse now?
no, they have to, once Pete finishes the study, they have to
Oh, okay.
approve it and then
That's
we'll get the
really
money.
something.
We got
Yeah.
like $22,000 from the state, cause they pay you when you, completed half of it.
Okay. And then, as, Pete had said, we met today with Lisa Pascola's office, and we met with Dan Flood's office 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, and
Mhm.
just trying to get traction, to get more monies, with the grant monies, so they can lobby for us.
Mhm.
So, I didn't realize there was all this other background.
It's like wrangling, they go into a room and they put the chits on the table and say, well, give them this, give them that, give them that, give them this.
Yeah.
It's like this,
so-
but everybody's gonna vote yes,
Has
otherwise
to
you
be
don't get it.
unanimous or else we don't get it, so,
Yeah.
well, so it's good news that we have the NIP with,
Yeah, that's a positive thing. That'll help the other one.
so, that's that. Okay, in property status, we have, Sherry did provide us an update.
Is She was a blah, 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 blah.
It wasn't much, they're working on it, they're new.
But she did talk to Mr. Ruckman.
Yeah, she spoke to one of our main stakeholders of this whole thing that's been waiting forever, and he's okay, so as long as he's okay, we're okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it,
Cause he doesn't say anything.
no,
But you didn't get a check yet.
no,
No, well, yeah, but.
no.
yeah.
And that's
Although the other money, yeah, we haven't gotten anything from
She hasn't,
Syracuse.
no, she hasn't replied.
She said if she needs anything, she was gonna let us know. She got all the papers,
She
Laura
hasn't
dropped it
done
all off a month ago.
Yep,
And, she said, if I need it, I'll let you know, but she hasn't gotten back to us.
no.
I'm
and
assuming it's okay.
yeah, I don't know, I know like probably summer's their busy time down there, so I haven't pushed her on it, so I don't know. So we will have one property that we had an appraisal on, and we need to bring it for a recommendation to the board of supervisors. So I can write the letter, I'm just wondering, is there a particular meeting that
Well,
works
we
better?
have the ninth, but, might wanna do it the next one, I don't know.
So this is one new property?
9 or the 23rd.
The 23rd?
If you want it sooner, the better.
Yeah,
Sooner the
good.
better. So
So
Oh.
bring it up on the 9th, I don't see it.
Yeah, just make sure you get it to the office in time so it can be on the agenda.
yeah, okay, so,
I could get it on the agenda, and then, if we have the table, we table it.
yeah, I mean, if it's,
Table it, we can table it, if you don't have that time.
I love that, that's.
We should vote on the, proposal, to get it up to the, get that up to the board.
Yes,
'Cause we're, I mean, I don't know if you guys wanna discuss it,
yep,
it's up, I don't wanna jump.
no, that's good, 'cause I don't have it on. Let's, yeah, discuss that now, while we're thinking on it, that's fine.
I'm okay with it. if you
This is
guys-
for the construction.
This is the, yeah, so
construction
this is,
proposal.
$276,530 total for everything. You know, you heard me ask John about the permits and everything, that's all included. And Scott should be done pretty soon with his, survey.
And that's separate, right? That's not.
That's included in here.
Oh, it's included in
That's
here?
included in, Carroll Engineering's.
Okay.
So, yeah. It just makes it cleaner for the grant process, because they're gonna wanna see this so that we can get our money. So they teamed up together, and, so we've got it listed here.
So, if I send a letter, 2 letters, one for each of those topics, we can maybe put them both on September 9th agendas?
So as long as we get them, as long as we get them to Cindy early enough.
Yeah.
Gotta get to Cindy by Wednesday before the meeting.
Yeah,
So you'll need them
The 4th.
up 4th, yeah.
I'm gonna do it by Friday before I forget. I'm gonna do it before I forget.
Oh, and she put out a thing for the new newsletter coming up. Maybe you can incorporate what's happened in the newsletter with your, because she's always looking for something for the newsletter.
Did you know that was coming up next on the agenda?
Oh.
Well, we still have to decide on this, right?
Yeah, we
Bringing
do.
this up to decide.
We should, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna write a letter recommending that we hire someone Collins for the construction.
Well, I think we have to vote on it.
Oh, we have to vote on
Yeah.
this. Yeah. So, is there a motion on the table, or I make a motion that we recommend that we have Simone Collins do construction fees of $276,000?
I'll make that motion.
Make that motion. Any discussion?
Maybe just go from there.
Good? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So I'll write the letter of recommendation to the board, and hopefully we can get that one in September 9th. And I will also just send that with my letter.
Motion.
Judge, I would put in your letter, just to reaffirm that this is coming from open space.
Yes,
Yes.
I'm just gonna tell you, make sure it says it's coming out of open space.
Yeah, open space money, okay, I'll just make that very clear. Okay,
I don't need anybody questioning whether that's in the budget or not.
Yeah, if it's in the right fund, that, you know,
Yeah.
well,
and there's no lawyers involved.
Right.
no, keep things simple, stop, okay, so, EDC has a meet and greet at Tuscarora, September seventeenth, is it the 17th or something? It's coming up.
Scott just told me about that today.
Yeah. So, Pete just gave me these nice little cards. I'm gonna hand them out. Anyone want one here? It's a couple out here, right? Yeah, why not, right? And then I'll take some down there. To the meet and greet. So, I think it's been, a good thing with the meet and greet, down at Tusk. The
Still not sure
EDC
how to use that
sponsors it twice,
Yeah, me
twice a
neither.
year now, so. Oh, Pete just gave these to me.
Little advertisements about that.
Yeah, little scan and, I mean, they're beautiful little cards, so I'm gonna take, you leave some here, I'll take some to, the meet and greet. The meet and greet, yep.
Yeah, put some at the counter there, or
Yep.
the other information.
So that's exciting. So,
So you didn't, it doesn't say, you don't know what
Is that what
time
happens
it
when you
is?
scan it?
The 17th, did you do it?
oh, you know what? I'll tell you this. The meet and greet is the 17th from
So once you do that, you don't need to send anymore, right?
17th, Tuesday the 17th.
Remember who you're talking to? Dinosaur.
Okay, 9:17, 6 to 8 p.m.
No.
So Laura, could you, I guess my question is, explain a little bit about the meet and greet. I know you had gone once before to kind of say what you were doing, but is that for the business people in the township, anybody else, and they're trying to get together and just come around? Or is there a
It's
agenda?
really, I don't know when they first start, I've been to 2 or 3 of them.
This is my first going to it, so I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
so
just the businesses, isn't it?
it's people on the EDC board, any businesses, local businesses, and it's,
And also, probably Florida and Tuscola.
yes, their offices can be there, not all the time, but sometimes our reps are there. So it's supposed to be most of the boards giving a
Presentation.
presentation.
Trying to showcase the township
Yeah.
to other businesses and to politicians, kind of?
Yeah, so what they, so one thing we have, I forget the gentleman, he has the trolley company that comes down.
Up from Delaware.
Oh, from Delaware?
Well, he's actually from East Stroudsburg, yeah. But they come, I don't know if you've seen the trolley.
Yeah, the pool is something. or
It's
other.
really cool, cause what he does is he loves our area, and he has been such a great advocate. He's in Monroe County, but he loves our area. So they'll load up the trolley and they take him to Columbia, New Jersey, and they're like, okay, see ya, and they walk across the bridge, they go into Portland, they do their thing, and then they go to Richmond Brewery, they go to M&M or wherever they go. And they go around, and then I see, they come up past my house in Lake Mincy to go over. They go to the Slate Belt Museum a lot, you'll see a trail,
Oh, yeah?
the trolley there too. So they're really trying to get people, draw people in.
I know they used to do Cold Air Cave,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't know if they've been doing anything up 611 with it being
yeah, I don't know if
closed.
they can or not. But anyway, so that's like one example from the EDC with him in just meet and greet and speaking with people and just trying to get, more business and people interested in what we have to offer, so. Anyway, so I will give them a snippet of what's been going on with, the preserve, feasibility study for the trail, how can you use those big boards?
Yeah.
I'll take those with me, and then I'll give them some of these, so, they'll be good. And then, any other questions on the meet and greet? I usually do a PowerPoint presentation, cause I like PowerPoint. Anyway, so that's a good thing. So our fall newsletter, I wanted to showcase the things we just spoke about, and then maybe we could even make this, have Peter send this.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And have this as like a half page or
Actually, just use that part.
what is part.
Well, yeah, they could use.
Make sure that,
Good work,
all nice, I need more,
Yeah.
bigger blow this up into a page.
Yeah, or a half, whatever.
Yeah.
I think this would be great for the newsletter. Yeah. So I was going to include the monies in the newsletter, the progress, which doesn't look like a lot, but it is a lot, cause there's just so many.
Somebody who's been working on this, like, we'll have, you know,
That's
daily
what we said at the
progress.
meeting, we're like, we've been doing this for 8, 9 years, all of us together, and,
We're all getting gold
we-
shovels. And we're all getting
You know
gold
what?
shovels. Like,
Without running any roots when you're gonna jam down there.
yeah, yeah.
If we do it, make sure it's the auto mile.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Wow.
That's what we should do, Jason.
Dig
Like,
out one of
Dig
those.
out that. I like it. Love it. That's what we're gonna
You can have a
do.
big pile of invasives and ceremoniously burned.
There's burn.
Yeah. Last one has to be written.
Yeah, some kind of
You have to ask.
ritual.
Don't you think he called me today and just said someone was burning and I got a phone call from the
Yeah.
president. Said he actually got permission to do it.
Yeah, so there you go.
I think it'd be,
That's funny.
once it's
All right,
done,
anything
I
else
think
for
it'd be a
the
good call.
newsletter? I was also gonna put a alert on, with the, heritage signs that we have now in the township.
Oh,
With
yeah.
some, I thought that would be nice.
Signatures.
Yeah. I have that to put on.
The signs that we posted for the conservancy,
For heritage.
Heritage, Ziegler Foods is the last one we did.
Yeah.
That's a nice sign.
It is actually.
It is,
nice.
so I have kind of nice,
Yeah.
yep, part of the, so I might have two little blurbs. Anything else that I'm missing? The newsletter?
No, because really, I mean, as long as they
This
can
says-
access that,
Yeah.
those two,
I don't think there's a problem,
yeah, those two things right there,
Okay.
all you gotta do is get on
Because
it.
otherwise, I mean, he could send this
Those
as a
web pages.
He
document.
might have, he might have the file, right?
Yeah, he probably, yeah.
So I could just email and tell him if he could send it.
So this is, it's been an exciting night here.
Yeah.
Monies. And I, you know,
It's just private browsing stuff.
that they're flexible and that John said it's a fluid plan as far as.
Yeah, they're not restricted,
No.
because you need to have some kind of validity that you could change if you had to.
Yeah.
I miss my flip
Like
phone.
you say, in order to sleep
I really
still,
do.
and yeah, like, you know, like an ADA now, it changes things.
Right, so we're moving forward. This is so exciting.
Yeah.
This is so exciting. All right. Any public comment out there?
Where's the brownies?
Oh, sorry,
Dave
I
wants
know.
food.
I have no
I
brownies
could
today.
supplement it with candy, we have candy.
No, we're gonna save that for executive meetings,
I
we'll never
know,
get
I
nothing
know.
done back there.
I'm sorry.
I have something that
Yeah,
I
sure.
can sort of bring out, you know, nothing that you guys have to, you know, get
Yeah.
stressed out about, but Dave is on the committee. For a while, the Wild and Scenic, Lower Delaware Water Gap Wild and Scenic Management Committee, which has been like ages, 20 or more years, they're going back now up and down the river and looking at reaffirming if you want to be in the Wild and Scenic program. And we didn't get around to doing a resolution until 2008. And the time frame, the window was 2000 to 2005. So while we're sort of quasi accepted at meetings and we got grants and things, they never went back. You have to go to the Congress to get this, you know, approved. So others, everybody, it fell apart for a while, and now they're saying, we're gonna go up and down the river and see if you wanna be reaffirmed, if you wanna be in it or not. Because basically, I think Warren County was in it, but you can't have a river divided down the middle. So if we're not in it, then Jersey's not in it, so that whole segment of the river is technically not in. So they're doing that, but what they're also doing is then expanding it. So we just had an expansion committee meeting. They're expanding it to all the tributaries that may be eligible. So the lower Delaware River starts at Slateford Creek. Slateford Creek is in the middle section. It's already for them considered protected. So we would have the Martins Creek, east and west. We have the Jacoby and the Allegheny right now. And Dave is on with Tom Gilmore, and I've been there with Tara Mezzanotte. And what she wants to do now is not just say, because, you know, for me a couple times she goes, no, that's not gonna be it. Don't talk about the history. Don't say, well, I know there's plants here, and I know this, and I know that. No, we are just going back to everything that is documented. So all those going back to the Pennsylvania Natural Heritage Index, everything that you can pull out and say, it's already in writing, this is already accepted, this is already given. Well, special exception was, or exceptional value is Slateford. The others are high quality, you know, for whatever trout. Tom is great with all the water stuff, his water, you know, he's doing that. Dave is great with all the legal aspects of things, and they both are great with getting on the computers. So what we're doing now for her, and she's working with, is coming up with a form, and you'll check the box for this, this, and this. And once that's done, hopefully, we have a pretty, thank goodness, board of supervisors that I think would be, you know, on board with this, as opposed to the years ago when it wasn't. But it'll be all documented, but we're trying to say to her also, don't forget, little problems, little things can pop up, people are gonna come and say, well, I don't want my property in there, cause I don't want the federal government telling me how I can cut my grass or something. It's amazing the things they come up with. We didn't get the Appalachian Trail ordinance because people didn't wanna be told they couldn't cut trees if they lived up in that area. So it can get scary. So what I'm saying to you guys is, at our meeting, I think going up and down the river, right now Durham Township, which was great on this 5 or 10 years ago, now has a switch in board of supervisors. They're not so thinking about it. But they're all looking about, some EACs aren't as good as they were, or some are getting better. But they look at the EAC as being the person involved. And we have split ours, right? Janet and I, when we did this before, we said, you know, there's so much controversy in this township, we're gonna make the EAC as one group, open space is on its own. So while this committee is thinking of this all as one big group, our EAC is kind of taking it on, mostly Tom and David. And once it gets all together, then we'll bring it to you guys, and you have a final, like, oh, what do you think? Does this seem reasonable to you? Would you wanna send a recommendation letter to the supervisors? Now, I don't know how long this is gonna take. You know, it's gonna take a while to get all the documentation done, a year, 2. I mean, you heard what these guys said. Because then it goes to a committee, a federal committee, puts it all together in language to take it to the Congress. Then it has to pass through the Congress to say, okay, we're updating the Wild and Scenic Act from 2000, I think it is, and we're adding these segments and this, that, and this. So just giving you a heads up. Probably not gonna see it before the end of the year, but, you know, Dave may come and mention something about it later on.
Judy, is that the whole length of the river, or is it's all the way from from east and west branch, or is it go all the way up that far, or?
It starts at Slateford, because that's where the
Okay.
lower Delaware starts.
Okay, that's where they consider
all the way
low.
down to Washington's Crossing, or I forget how far down.
Okay.
Yes, Trent. And
So anything above Slateford is considered the upper?
It's already in the middle river.
Oh,
There's
that's
the
the
middle
middle,
and the
okay.
upper. There's 3 segments. And that's the middle segment. Because of the
Yeah.
National Recreation Area and the
Yeah.
Tots Island Dam, it stopped, well, and that's where the Park Service stops, right there at Slateford Road. So they've already got that. And Charlie and I, different times, but we want the Slaver Creek in there, because it's so important to, Portland gets their water from there, the development will want their water from there, and they're saying, that's fine for you politically, but you don't need it because it's already in the middle section. So it's all those, it's like what we're learning about in zoning here. You gotta go by the technicalities of what the rules say and how they're interpreted and whatever.
So technically, the township is split into both the middle and lower.
Nah, kind
Kinda,
of, we
right?
have that little bit of section
Little bit
between
of
Point of the Gap
in the
and
middle.
Slaver Creek.
Mm.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, that is our township, but, you know, we're doing it. So it has to do with the, what was it, 2005? I think 2010 or 11, I forget what it was. There's always 5-year studies. There was a 5-year study that said the water in the Delaware River is clean enough to be considered special protection waters, which is why you never heard the developer ever talk about the river. So it's special protection waters, and that means, and Tom knows a lot more about this, there's mussels, the shatterback, there's all these different things. There's plants within the river. Those are all things you take considering, and that's where the streams, whether it's the Jacoby or the Allegheny or whatever, those things are all being considered. The quality of the water, whatever wildlife is around. And part of it too, there's historical, cultural, there's all those view sheds, all these things that are important to the scenic value of, which is the scenic, it's not really a wild and scenic river, it's a scenic and recreational river, is our section. And then the Appalachian Trail feeds into all this too, because that's a national entity. Which is why when you're talking about this in like Mincy, and when Dave knows when we go to Plan Slate Belt, if you looked at our map from below 611 and all the way to the ridge, they call that an area of special, I don't know, it's I keep forgetting the name. But it's different because we have the vernal pools, we have the all this stuff. And it's a little bit more concentrated, I wanna say, all that stuff is there, as opposed to other places in the county.
Sure.
You know, they have important things here and there, but not to the degree that
We're
this
more
is.
special.
We're more special. And you've got the trail, the Appalachian Trail, the scenic river, you're right next to which is why some people were upset about Native people getting involved in the 611 kind of thing. But we have an unbelievable historic to the past with the Native Americans. So there's all this stuff, which is why I get crazy about the power plant development.
Sure. So, just on the river, with the part down by, right above Belvedere and Riverton, where the county owns?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
No.
right, it's,
That
Del
little-
Hollow up to, you know, whatever.
above Del Hollow, that
Mhm.
little, whatever that
Used to be a
island is.
boat launch.
And they call it Mount Jack.
Mount Jack.
It used to be called Mount Jack on the, we used to have a map here, the 22 or whatever, areas of special,
Yeah.
whatever, that anybody that came into planning had to look at those, and within a half a mile, you had to consider that with your development. That kind of, you know, gives supervisors that,
Yeah, so I'm just wondering how that ties in since it's county owned. Does that help?
Well, yeah, actually, all the counties up and down the river, municipalities, townships, whichever, but Tara has also gone to the county. The county may also be a partner in this too.
And then
Lower Mount Bethel has already signed up again.
Okay.
Our watershed is a partner.
Okay.
We're now
We're
working.
the only one that's not signed up then?
Not yet, but they're up and down the river. If I remember right in the beginning, I can remember sitting here years ago, and Larry Howard sat there, and I said, but 23 municipalities have signed on to this. And he said, and there were only 4. There was us, White Township, Williams, and Alexandria, I think there were 4. And he said, well, maybe we know more than they do. That's the kind of stuff we would get. Janet knows what we would get, you know, whenever you talk about something like this. So that's technically, it's to not, and this is all gonna come out, and we had a presentation by Tara here, and I thought we were gonna get her PowerPoint that we could maybe, if we could, at some point, put it online or something. Chris taped it, it might be on his thing. But it's going to be, this is just another one of those check off the box when you're looking for grants of that magnitude that you're getting. And why we might be, it's like you're trying to make more points than the other guys. It's like playing a game. You got more points on the scoreboard of things you have, okay, you get the money to try to keep it, fix it, or whatever, or improve it.
Sure.
So that's what we're trying to do. We will just talk a little bit about it at our meeting at EAC, but not really. We're doing all behind the scenes work now.
Okay.
So, hopefully it works out. And that, again, helps, you know, with the grants you have.
Oh,
With
absolutely.
the other thing would be, like you said, the trail, trying to get the Liberty to Water Gap Trail. That's another thing that Nick knows. It's like, I remember Russ Nee saying to us years ago, don't worry, when you're the only little section there, Delaware Water Gap to Portland, and you didn't sign on yet, they're gonna be throwing politics and money and everything at you to get you on board. So, and that would be another thing, to have the Liberty to Water Gap
Yeah.
911 trail along 611, along that river. Another thing about tourism.
Yeah.
So it's all kind of, I know Janet and I, when I said that to Janet, it's like, are we gonna be old, are we gonna be alive yet by the time this gets done? I don't know. Gotta hang in there. But,
Hang in.
it
We'll
just
get it.
takes time, and there's bumps in the road. and-
Yeah, it takes, you have to
But
be
we'll get
patient
there.
in the process, for sure. Yeah,
But
well,
yeah,
thank you,
that's-
that's,
That's on the horizon.
Let us know so we can bring it up. Right
Yes,
there.
It's all timing, right? Everything's kind of timing, you know?
It is.
You jump out there too soon and you get cut off at the knees.
yeah, so. Anything else? You're good? Good, you're good?
We have anything special on trails, is there that, any more meetings on?
No, we're done.
No,
They
we're done.
finished the feasibility study and.
I have one for each of the supervisors.
I was just wondering how they're making out on the, properties that come up State
They
Street.
gave us,
They said they couldn't. So that's why I copied today.
Yeah, I sent you guys the,
They were trying.
They
She
were
said
trying.
this and I printed it out, but.
he's gonna give us the supervisors.
So-
Cynthia, where are you with the trails? I mean,
And
because
it
I missed a
shows
meeting or
you-
two of it.
So they,
You waiting for like
This-
money
This
and
is gonna
getting it?
be,
This
You
going
know.
up,
they just
This is
finished
the
the
That's Portland,
feasibility
yeah.
study
And there's-
of the
Right,
Mincy
okay.
to,
geez, what was it going to be?
Portland to Collins.
This was the drug
I like to say
court.
Mincy and Portland,
And
it's
so
not
this is
partial to
coming up.
Mincy.
Well, and
My
starts
husband
before
is-
me.
Okay, so
Alphabetically,
they're gonna go this
it's-
way on this trail.
Exactly.
How are they
just
turning
saying.
left
Oh,
and
I think they wanted to
Now,
help
Bethel, where?
Gild the lily for Portland and get them.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess,
yeah,
that's a
yeah.
big
Anyway,
question.
Because it
so,
says if that,
like, that was
if
just a
they're going all the way up by the
feasibility
school,
study,
Yeah.
if we were to
and
take it
turn
to the
left and go
next.
back behind
Here.
there.
So now you
Steps.
can,
They're walking
So it's
out, I was
feasible?
going over that and I.
I guess, now you wait for the money and how to make things happen.
Feasible, the study's paid for,
He says,
was all
when he
grant
went to school
monies.
down there, he didn't think there was property.
Here it
all the way
is.
up there.
Well, Portland, the Portland
So-
section of this is very difficult.
Just seeing
I
it
said
Is it
it's-
pretty?
State
Wow.
Street. And he says he used to get on, get out of school, and he'd walk
so yeah.
through.
But I
This
mean-
property is in the middle
Green one,
section, or is
behind-
that?
So I'll take you from Mincy. So you go from Mincy, from the East Shore launch, you go across East Shore Drive, and then this is the old railroad bed that the township owns here. And then you go up Tots Gap,
Well, no, that's up in
Oh,
Alpha
that's
County.
up at Glen Festival. That's right.
Ramblewood,
That's on the hill.
and then down, Ramblewood to $1 million, and then to the preserve.
And the tree went through the front yard.
So what is the land in the middle
tree
then?
went through the backyard.
The dashed line, yeah.
This,
It was.
so this would be a Sharrow, so what they'd like to do is have,
Ended,
It essentially is
the
on the
property
road.
went.
yeah, so it's like the
Just,
shoulder.
there's different types of trails that they have to put in.
Yeah, so like this,
No,
Straight.
they were
on Tots Gap,
Oh, so you should jump on
Ramblewood.
and then just
Yes,
go
Oh, I
back.
get it.
Because
there.
technically
But the
there
one that went in
is
front of the house.
old railroad right of way that goes from the end of that stretch to the preserve, but it goes through private property and
Yeah,
they
so
didn't
it's-
wanna
it's
allow
privately
right of
owned.
way.
And that was Dumont's
yeah, it's private land. And then also they,
So he says.
considering,
you ain't got
because
problems.
Sand Pit is very wide,
He doesn't
which
understand
is
why
shown
that
down
property
there,
problems
that you could
for
make
State Street.
paths to go up to the ball fields.
If you wouldn't have those trucks on it, that would be a decent.
Well, it is still
road
pretty
to-
wide,
to-
I mean, he has it down here at the
That would be the
bottom.
township building down there.
Cause it is pretty, it is an easy ride, you know, so and then, you know, you go through
The
Preserve
houses
and then
are up
Portland,
here,
a few different,
Is that what you-
Portland's the tough part.
yeah, Portland's
All
the
all the
tricky
different,
part.
different properties they have to.
So you can go up Boulder to Morningside and just do all Sharrows.
Yeah, and the same, I think there's an old rail line that goes through there that technically they could.
Yeah, the county owns some, but there'd
You
be
never-
easements, you
What
never
this
know.
says, you never know.
You
10 or
never
20
know.
or 30 years down the road,
This is,
you might get it.
You know, so,
Never know.
anyway.
this is,
I think
the main
Ann
project.
didn't want to, and I think Nicholas wanted to, didn't he?
The main
Isn't he
project is.
more or less
reserved,
for letting the
so
trail
we
go.
have all our
Alright,
energy
I
into
feel
that.
like
I
we've
don't know.
accomplished so many
She
things.
was, but she was.
Anything
she
else?
was against it.
Oh, yeah, he fell down the steps.
Oh, really? I didn't,
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Alright, is there a motion
The
to
motion
adjourn?
to adjourn, I make a motion to adjourn.
Next,
Second.
second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Yeah, he fell down